If you want to get 5 or more points on your ToK essay, you need to evaluate your main knowledge claims. Today on ToK Today, we're going to look at 4 main evaluation points that can arise from virtually all knowledge in AoK history. Very useful for the ToK essay. Welcome to ToK Today, I'm Daniel, and today we're going to look at 4 essential evaluation points that will help you to write evaluation points for knowledge claims in AoK history in your ToK essay. Now, before I start, I assume that you understand that to evaluate something means to critically assess the strengths and limitations of the knowledge claims, in this case, in AoK history. Okay, let's get started. Selectivity in historical knowledge. So first up, let's discuss the issue of selectivity in the production of historical knowledge. Historians must decide which events, figures, and perspectives to include in their narratives. This selectivity is influenced by their cultural background, personal beliefs, and the prevailing attitudes of their time. For instance, traditional histories often focused on political and military leaders, neglecting the experiences of everyday people. Recognizing this selectivity helps us to understand that historical knowledge is not a comprehensive account of the past, but a curated interpretation shaped by various biases and perspectives of knowledge brokers, knowledge gatekeepers, and historians. Evaluation point 2, interpretation of historical sources. Next, let's tackle the interpretation of historical sources. Historians rely on documents and artifacts and other sources to reconstruct past events, but interpreting these sources is inherently subjective. Understanding past events from a modern perspective can lead to anachronisms where contemporary values and beliefs are projected onto the historical contexts. For example, interpreting medieval practices through a 21st century lens can distort our understanding of those practices, their original meanings, and their significance. Critical evaluation requires an awareness of these interpretative challenges and a careful consideration of the context in which historical sources were produced. Third evaluation point, post-event attribution of cause and effect. Now let's discuss the post-event attribution of cause and effect. Historians often associate events to demonstrate causation, but this retrospective analysis can be problematic. Establishing proof in historical events is challenging because the interconnected nature of historical factors makes it difficult to isolate specific causes. For example, attributing the cause of a war to a single event oversimplifies the multitude of political and economic and social factors involved. Recognizing this complexity helps us to understand that historical causation is often a matter of interpretation rather than definitive proof. Fourth evaluation point, constructing unbiased historical knowledge. Finally, we must consider whether it's possible to construct unbiased historical knowledge. All historical narratives are influenced by the historian's perspective and the available sources. Whilst historians strive for objectivity, complete neutrality is likely unattainable. Every historian brings their own biases to their work, consciously or unconsciously. This does not mean that historical knowledge is inherently flawed, but rather that it reflects the interplay between past realities and present understandings. Evaluating historical knowledge thus involves critically examining those biases and recognizing the subjective nature of historical interpretation. So, in conclusion, evaluating historical knowledge requires a nuanced understanding of these 4 key points: selectivity in the production of historical knowledge, interpretation of sources, post-event attribution of cause and effect, and the potential for bias. And by examining these aspects, you can develop deeper appreciation of the complexities involving constructing and understanding historical knowledge, which helps you to develop better evaluation points for AoK history in your ToK essay. If you found this video useful, then a like, a subscribe, or a comment are very much appreciated. Go on, at least a like, please, but a subscribe would be great. Next up, we'll be looking at evaluation points for AoK Mathematics, and I hope to see you on that video. Stay ToKtastic, my friends.